So the concept is how to properly measure a room. Step number one, we need to sketch the room. So stand in the middle of the room and start at a door and start to sketch the room. So the key is you need to pay attention. Does the door swing into the room or does it swing out of the room? Right next to the door, and I'm going to move either clockwise or counterclockwise. From the corner to the outside of the door frame is 5 1/4 inches. I'm going to write that down. I'm going to measure from the outside of the frame to the outside of the frame. I have 39 inches. Then the next measurement I'm going to get is from this outside of the door frame all the way to that wall. And this is how it's easier to measure on the floor. Take your tape measure, lay it down, and just feed it out slowly. And right here, I have 148 inches to the outside of that frame. So notice I'm moving clockwise. I'm going to measure the door. Now, you just measure from the outside frame of the door. I do need this little dimension right here behind the door. And then you'll see that I just kind of continue to move clockwise around the room to get the full dimensions that I want. And I usually draw these lines like this. So right here, I have that dimension, and then I have this door dimension. So once I get all that, I need to look at the cabinets in the room. So the cabinet, I'm going to want to know how big, if I'm not going to move the cabinets out of the room, I'm going to want to know the dimensions of those cabinets. So really I need to, again, measure the depth of that cabinet to the actual wall, which is 25. So I'm going to add those two numbers together. So then measuring the cabinetry, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to put this on the floor and I'm going to walk with it. Notice how I feed it out. And that cabinet is 168 inches long. And I had mentioned the depth of the cabinet earlier at 25. You can measure it right here as well. So once I kind of start clockwise and move around the space, you can do it counterclockwise, we don't care. Just make sure you capture every single dimension. Then that's step number one. Step number two, measure the ceiling. Now you want to also look for sprinkler heads here. Sprinkler heads are basically a fire suppression system. You have a law, you have to stay 18 inches off of that to meet fire code. That's key. So the best way to measure a ceiling is to pull out about 4 feet of tape and bend the tape. Put this tape on the ground, hold it like this in your hands, and feed it. Let it slide out of your left hand. Try to keep the left side on the floor. And now I'm getting a ceiling height of 120 inches, and I'm getting a sprinkler height of about 118 inches. Step number 3, as you measure, remember I said start at the door and move around. But you also want to look for obstructions. So think fire strobes, anything that's sticking out from the wall. You might even have windows. You're going to need to measure around the windows unless you want to block your windows. So maybe I'm going to leave this television and this security camera in the space. So I have to think I've got to locate that on this wall. So I want, again, I know my door frame, so I want to measure from my door frame to where the TV starts. That's 45 inches. And then I want to measure the width of the TV, 39 inches. And then ideally, I want to measure the height of the TV off the floor. That's 70.5 inches. Step number 4, make sure you say where the door swings. Does the door swing into the room or out of the room? That's key for ADA laws. That's called Americans with Disability Act laws. If you're inside of the room and the door swings in, I need 18 inches. If the door swings out of the room, I only need 12 inches clearance from what they call the strike plate. The strike plate receives that latch, and you have the code because this is a pull side of the door. I am mandated by code to be 18 inches away from that strike plate to meet ADA code. And then I want you to also tell me what's on the floor. What type of floor covering? Is it carpet? Is it tile? Or is it just concrete? Very helpful. And then step number 6 is look at that ceiling. Make sure that I don't have a sloped ceiling, something like that, and this being the floor. Because if I have a sloped ceiling, I need you to measure the ceiling at this point, and I need you to measure it at this point. If for some reason that's not capable, you could always measure it at a midpoint, give me that dimension, but then I'm also going to need to know what is that dimension that you measured it, so thus I could catch the slope as I'm designing your space.